nice to see so many people here. At some point we were not sure, are we going to fill that room? I think this is sufficiently filled given also the heat. So I hope it is bearable for you. Particularly, I'm very happy for the attendance, but also our special guests and City Councillor Kappel, thank you very much for joining, and Rektor Schneider. Vice Rector Ertl is here, I've seen in the back. Some other important people. I've been told by Walter Gerd to just refer to all people as excellencies, so welcome all excellencies. That also includes all members of TU Wien, because we're so dedicated to excellence that I consider everybody to be an excellency as well. And I want to particularly welcome, did I forget something? No. The wind is coming. Oh, fantastic. So I will keep this short so I can sit over there where the wind is coming in. But particularly I also want to welcome the participants of the summer school, the third ACM Europe Summer School on Digital Humanism that we started today, actually. So for the whole week, we have the summer school here at TU Wien. We had a very interesting start already today. Introduction to digital humanism, discussions about democracy, use of AI in public service. So I think there were some interesting inputs already, and already some very vivid discussions. And I think we're going to have a great week, and we're very happy that you're here. So yes, I think for the like this combination of a public event and the summer school is actually quite nice to have. There's a few things on the agenda for today. So the first thing is a welcome address by the Dean of the Faculty of Informatics, Gerti Kappel. So without much further ado, I ask you to take the stage. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, what happened yesterday? The first time since very long time there was an election in Germany, and the extremist right-wing party AfD got most votes in Thüringen with more than 30%. And we know the connection to the dark history of Germany, but also of Austria. Why I start like that? Digital humanism is very important, but I think there are more important things. And I also start with that because you might know that TU Wien has started a strategy process, and we are just in the midst of it. And what happened in this building, one floor up, in 1937, I make it even more exciting. It was also part of our dark history. Non-Jewish students threw Jewish students out of the window. And why do I start with this? As part of the strategy process of TU Wien, they have also established a book club. And so far there are 4 books in the book club. And one of the books is Solange wir leben, As Long as We Live, by David Safir. He is the son of one of the Jewish students who has studied civil engineering here. And he was lucky enough, he has seen how his colleagues were thrown out, so he never entered TU Wien again. And I guess it was not by chance that this book was also selected for our strategy process. But now to digital humanism. There are 3 other books on this book list. And the 3 other books are Die KI sei mit euch by Helga Nowotny. Also in English, artificial intelligence is with us, yeah, from the biblical term. Weapons of mass destruction. How big data increases inequality and threatens democracy. And third, the last but not least, I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. All 3 books can be on the book list of a course on digital humanism. So it is an important topic, I can assure you. Yeah? And the reason why we gathered, or why we are gathering together, is in fact a very kind of applaudable one. 5 years ago, the former dean, Hannes Wertner, was stubborn enough to establish kind of the Viennese group on digital humanism, supported by the members of our then International Advisory Board. I see Hans Ackermanns here, it was Edward Lee, it was Carlo Gezzi, it was Moshe Wadi. And I think what he started and what became now the Vienna way of digital humanism is really unprecedented. And this is, we will hear more about this, but I really want to thank Hannes Wertner for all his work. So we have a lot of excellencies here. I just say welcome to all our esteemed panelists, to our friends, guests. I'm pretty happy, especially happy that our rector and vice rector joined this group today, because as we know, digital humanism doesn't end at the end of the Faculty of Informatics. Yeah? We have digitalization in all areas. In research, without digitalization and AI is not possible anymore. So we, as a TU Wien, we have to tackle this topic. And therefore, it is very important that it's not only bottom-up movement, but it is also a strategic kind of development top-down. I want to say kind of hello and all the best from the former rector Sabine Seidler. In fact, she called me an hour ago because it was clear she will come, but her husband got COVID and she didn't want to come with a mask, so which I understand. She really is very proud of you, Hannes, and of all the achievements what we have kind of reached together. You know, we will talk about the past, we will talk about the future. What is also kind of unprecedented, that within few years, also the politics has taken up this topic, and especially the city of Vienna kind of remembered of its roots. And thank you very much that Verena Kaup-Hassler is here today. We have a special funding support from the WWTF, from the Wirtschaftsagentur, and also here, I guess, more will come. It is an interdisciplinary topic. We know that we can't do everything at TU Wien. The great thing is that we talk together with also the other universities in Vienna. By a funding of the city of Vienna, there will be an own, or the first doctoral college on digital humanism, where TU Wien, Uni Wien, and the University of Vienna, the University of Business and Economics, and TU Wien are working together. And I guess this is the right way to go. We have to work together to really, to change the world on different levels, but especially in the area of digital humanism, where we know, especially since ChatGPT, it is kind of out of our hands all of a sudden. Yeah? Everything explodes, the developments, and also the good things and the bad things. And I think it is our responsibility, especially at the universities, to teach the future, to teach our students in technical subjects that they have it in their hand, that there is something like a digital humanism by design. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gerti. Thank you very much, Gerti. I have to move on with the presentation, and I thought it might be a good idea to actually give you some contextualization before we get to the main points of the evening and the announcements. And so I thought I'll talk about the 5 years of digital humanism at TU Wien very briefly. Some things were already mentioned, and particularly the stubbornness of Hannes Wertner was already mentioned, so I don't have to mention that again. But it led to the Digital Humanism workshop in 2019, where we had more than 100 participants from really diverse disciplines, and they were coming together to talk about history and impact of information technology, humans and society, AI and ethics, dynamics of a new world, issues and answers. And the most important outcome of that workshop is not that group photo, although that is also a very, very important outcome, but is actually the Vienna Manifesto on Digital Humanism that we're celebrating today for being around for 5 years. And this is the short version, basically the short read of the Vienna Manifesto. The longer version you can read online if you haven't done so. The longer version you can also read on our new posters that we have designed specifically for this event, and that you can also grab at the end if you want one for your home walls, which also contains the full manifesto. A bit hard to read there. Maybe it's easier to read online, but it's there. So we hand out the manifesto in a new format tonight. But I think more important are the contents here, and the manifesto was and still is a call for reflection and, more importantly, for action. But it's also, like addressed at people making policies and giving us funding. So it's also a research program. And I'm not going to go into all the details here, but I think it's important to highlight the core principles that we do want to create digital technologies with a purpose, and that is to promote democracy and inclusion. And that for the software programs and the algorithms that we develop, that fairness and responsibility and transparency are important attributes. The market concentration in tech monopolies is something that is actually, stifling innovation and is actually leading to threats of democracy. And so we think intervention and action against that needs to be taken. One of the things that states very clearly is that decisions affecting human rights must be made by humans. It's what I usually refer to as there's no hiding behind the technology, right? So if there's something that affects people, don't just say it's the technology, I'm not responsible for this. So it's all about responsibility by humans here. That different scientific disciplines needs to connect, so breaking those silos is a very central point, and that universities are very important in this context, as well as research in an open dialogue with society, and that also new approaches to teaching are needed that combine all these different disciplines. And it basically ends with a short definition or the core message that what digital humanism is, and it's more than just the analysis of the interplay between technology and humankind, but it also says it has to impact and influence that complex interplay with the goal of a better society and life, fully respecting universal human rights. And one might extend that to not only refer to humankind, but also society and the environment. And the call for action that we must shape technologies in accordance with human values and needs. Our task is not only to rein in the downsides, but also to encourage human-centered innovation. And since then, actually a lot has happened, and it really is impossible to put that all together on one slide, but I still tried. So the manifesto has been translated into 8 languages. We received signatures from 45 different countries. The concept of digital humanism, or the term digital humanism, has been included in governmental programs and declarations. There's a statement by the EU at the level of the UN. There are fellowships together with the IWM. There are several research and innovation programs that are particularly designed for digital humanism, or that mention digital humanism. A number of books have been edited. Foremost, Perspectives on Digital Humanism and Introduction to Digital Humanism, out of the initiative and of the large network that we have formed through these workshops and through the activities that we've set. And together, they've reached, these are open access books, and together to this point, they've reached a combined 900,000 downloads, which is quite a big success. There's also a book, and I would have particularly referred to former Rector Seidler for also contributing to this book and writing about the corporate responsibility of the TU, the university, and writing in the book Praxis des Digitalen Humanismus. I think Georg Kappel is also here tonight. He's the editor of this book. So there's activities on multiple fronts there. We have a very established lecture series that we started online due to COVID, of course. And since 2020, we have over 60 online lectures. And together with the workshops, this amounts to over 150 hours of material, of videos, of talks that you can watch for free about the different facets of digital humanism. And I'm very proud to say that we also received the UNESCO chair on digital humanism. Julia Neidhardt and I, actually I didn't introduce myself, my name is Peter Knees, hi. Julia Neidhardt and I, in 2023, also under former Rector Seidler here, seen on the picture together with Minister Polashek. Another thing that we did, and this comes back to basically what I said before, we established the summer schools on digital humanism. So we started with the first edition in 2022, and you can see from the important topics and from the agendas that we have there, that we started with participation, democracy, sovereignty. These were already very important topics to begin with the very renowned speakers that we have here. Economy, privacy, ethics, fairness. These are the topics that we care about. And then, of course, 2023, we had to talk about AI and machine learning much more. Everybody wanted to know how is digital humanism responding, what is the take of digital humanism on AI, machine learning, and particularly large language models. And in this edition, we have this focus, as mentioned before, about democratic institutions, human-centered AI, and also global perspectives. So as I mentioned, this will be a very, very interesting week. And this gets me to a slide which I included because it was very, very hard to include all the activities and mention all the people that have supported us on the way here and that we have collaborated with over these years. And that is actually quite a full slide at this point. So of course, WWTF was there from the very beginning with the first workshop already. We have received support from the Wirtschaftsagentur Wien, from the city of Vienna, as was mentioned already before, the FFG. With the UNESCO chair, of course, we have the collaborations with UNESCO and the Austrian UNESCO Commission, the IWM, the Ministry for Climate and short version for climate, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, the United Nations University, particularly one in Macau, the Digital Enlightenment Forum, Informatics Europe, ACM, IEEE. There's EU projects that have been funded, like Euridice, which play a strong role in the activities that we do, and also a partnership with Wiener Zeitung when it was still actually the Wiener Zeitung as we know it. What can you do? But still a good partner here. And that gets me to the next point. Thanks for bearing with me. So far, we talked about the supporters and collaborators that we had up to this point, but now I want to give the stage to George Mitakidis from the Digital Enlightenment Forum, and he will basically tell us something about new initiatives and also some more connections that we have.
Thank you, Peter, and good evening, everybody. Let me first reassure everybody that the notorious stubbornness of Hannes Werthner is alive and well, so there's no need to worry. I can assure you it will be with us for many years to come. The reason I was asked to say a few words is because two videos are going to be presented shortly, and I want to tell you why. There is... Yes, okay. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Internet and the 35th anniversary of the World Wide Web, in addition to being the 5th anniversary of digital humanism, which, as you know, has been trying to find ways to guide the development of the technologies in ways that are beneficial to humans and to society, and avoid negative results, for example, polarization and extremism that was alluded to earlier. every technology has its positives and its negatives, and the drive of digital humanism is to augment the former and try to mitigate and restrict the latter. As Peter mentioned, this was not done in splendid isolation. There were collaborations with like-minded organizations, and very recently, in the last few months, it was thought that it would add value to all our efforts if we joined efforts in an alliance with some of these organizations. These are the Digital Enlightenment Forum that I had the pleasure to be a co-founder of. It's the Web Science Trust, based in Southampton, and the People-Centered Internet, based in Palo Alto, and also Germany. The idea is, of course, that every organization will continue with their own thing and their own stubbornness, but at the same time, there will be collaboration on specific projects where we pool our networks, our knowledge, our expertise, and try to get specific results faster. So, the first video will be by a famous computer scientist, Professor Dame Wendy Hall, from the University of Southampton, that was a co-founder, together with Tim Berners-Lee, among others, of the Web Science Trust, and until recently its CEO. She's no longer the CEO, but we are delighted to have with us a member of the panel also, Noshir Contractor, who is the current CEO who replaced her, and him we have physically present. And the second video will be presented by Mei Lin Fung, who is the co-chair of the People-Centered Internet, which she co-founded together with Vint Cerf, the inventor of the Internet, not the web, the Internet. So, without further ado, I think we can proceed with the two videos.
Hello, my name's Wendy Hall. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Southampton and one of the founders of the Web Science Trust. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Summer School on behalf of the Web Science Trust. Until very recently, I was the CEO of the Trust and just handed that baton over to Professor Noshir Contractor from Northwestern University in the US, who I know will take our initiative on and grow it and over the coming years as he becomes CEO. We founded the Web Science Trust back in 2006. It was Web Science Research Initiative then between Southampton and MIT, and we were Tim Berners-Lee, Nigel Shadbolt, Danny Weitzner, Jim Hendler and myself, who realised that actually looking back over the 15 years of the web as it was in 2006, it wasn't just a technical revolution, it was a socio-technical revolution. The way that society uses the web influences the technology, and the technology influences society, and it's that interplay between society and technology that we wanted to focus on and study the web as a socio-technical system. So we set up the Web Science Trust and developed a network of laboratories who focus on research and education in web science, the Web Science Trust network of labs around the world doing this type of work. And it's an absolute pleasure to be welcoming you to your Digital Humanities Summer School from this perspective. The interplay between society and technology has always been very important. My inspiration for this world was Nicholas Negroponte. His book, Being Digital, in 1996 is a classic and a seminal work that I would encourage you all to read. I read it as a young professor, and his words in 1996 about what it's like, what it will be like to live in a digital world, was so prescient and so important today, we're still coming to grips with what it means to be human in a digital world. And that's what your summer school is all about. And as we move forward, we're looking, the whole world is talking about artificial intelligence. I've been doing artificial intelligence, using it for 40 years, but all of a sudden with ChatGPT, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. And the interplay between artificial intelligence and the internet and the web, which is how we get onto the internet, is so important. People ignore it. It's no coincidence that it is the internet companies that are driving AI forward because of what they can do with the engineering. They have data, they have money. And so that interplay between the dependency between AI and the internet is absolutely huge, and the resilience and robustness of the internet was demonstrated when we all went onto it in COVID. And we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the TCP/IP protocols just this year at an event in the Royal Society with Vint Cerf and Tim Berners-Lee and others who were there. It is amazing. It's a testament to the pioneers who designed the internet. But we need to cherish it and nurture it and make it a force for good for the future, as we and study how the internet is going to help us do the same for AI. A robust and resilient internet is really important for the future of the digital world, including the development of artificial intelligence. So I'm going to finish there. I'm going to wish you all a happy summer school, and finish by telling you we are coming together as an alliance. That is, we being the Web Science Trust, the People-Centered Internet, the Digital Enlightenment Forum and Digital Humanities, as an alliance to take forward this idea that the internet is for society, and for the good of society we need to nurture and cherish the internet to ensure that it's taken forward and the AI that's built on it is built for the good of humanity. And I'll leave you with that thought as you go into your summer school. Enjoy it, learn from it, have fun. And I'm sorry I can't be there, but I know you'll have a wonderful time.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to connect with you all today in what looks like a wonderful exhibition of Austrian artists, including Gustav Klimt from the last century. This is a display of digital art that was put on in Paris in 2018. I'm also speaking from the decentralized web camp here in Northern California. It's the last evening, and we've had 5 days of people really thinking about what does the decentralized future look like. It's a pleasure to be with young people and to hear how much imagination and energy and passion people are putting into creating a future that is worth fighting for. Today, we stand on the brink of exciting global milestones, like the upcoming UN Summit of the Future and the signing of the Global Digital Compact at the United Nations. I'll also be chair of the Digital Governance Series at the UN Science Summit in September. And I am reminded of the interconnectedness of our digital lives. We're actually celebrating the 50th anniversary of the internet this year, which we've had the pleasure to work with the Digital Humanism community in putting on an event in July at the Royal Society. I want to thank especially Professor Hannes Werther, as well as Dr. George Metakidis, for all the collaboration that we've had and will continue to have.
So, okay, we get to the next point, which is the main event, basically, of the evening, and that's a panel discussion. And since George was already on stage here, I would just ask him to come back to the stage right away. as a panelist, please, George, can I just ask you to take a seat on the stage?
George, wherever you want. The order will be afterwards.
Unless I will have to announce you later on. So then I also asked to the panel Veronika Kappel from the city of Vienna. Great to have you here. Jens Schneider, Rector of TU Wien. Christiane Wendehorst, University of Vienna. National Contractor from the Web Science Trust. And your moderator and host for this panel will be Hannes Wehr.
Just some few words before starting the panel, and thanking all of you for participating here, also those in the room. I really have to confess, when we started 5 years ago, we did not know what we would start, okay? Gerti already referred to the International Advisory Board, where it was, let's say, somehow monitoring, consulting the work of the faculty, but over the time it developed, and moving away from the faculty, we were talking about computer science in general, and at the end it was a discussion about societal impact, not only of computer science, but also, let's say, science in general. And I still remember we had a meeting at the advisory board, and there was also Michael Stampf, I really want to thank. And there we discussed really what are the next steps to do, okay? And then it came up that there would be something we could, let's say it was not really the name already yet, but there would be needed some initiative from there. And from there on, it started. It really was something, it was a scientific endeavor from academics, but also from the early beginning, we had some collaboration, very close collaboration with the city of Vienna, also from the conceptual level. And then we had this, let's say, the manifesto, which is really still a valid document, and I recommend you to read, because they are basic principles. It's not just an observation, it's a principle how to guide, how to steer the work, okay? And the reason I'm saying this, it brings me back to Gerti's comment, because Gerti likes to provocate, okay? She likes to stand up and make a communication, and I really thank you for this communication on the results of Eastern German election, which are really terrible. But it has to do with us. It has to do with us. It has to do with, let's say, the vision of humanism, where we are fighting or living for a better world, where we are respecting human values, and we are somehow living for making this world a better world, okay? It's not only digital, it's also humanism. Let's say, it's a philosophical, conceptual framework. And this is, I think, it's very important to put this into context. At the end, it's about using the digital for a better society and a better world, with democratic participation and, let's say, with an open society. This is what I really want to state here. And this is the background to all that. So at the end, it's not only about research. At the end, it's mainly about politics. I really want to say it's a political statement. I thank Gerti for the provocation. Otherwise, I would not have said this. And having said this, I sit down and then I'm asking my panelists and thanking them for participating. What we have agreed is that we have 2 rounds. One is on the, let's say, on the past, from the different perspective, and then I introduce the panelists. And the second round is, what are the challenges ahead? And it's not only, let's say, it's not only computer science. It's a challenge for society. It's a challenge how this interwoven web of democratic participation can work in the future, and what we can contribute. And I really want to underline, it's not only about science, it's about the overall society, and it's not only Vienna, it's not Europe, it's the world, okay? And this is the real contribution we could provide to step beyond silos we might have. So, I'm grateful for this diverse panel. It was not random, it was chosen by us, and I really would like to thank Veronika Kappel, She is politician, but not by education. No? She is a scholar in cultural studies.
Literature and theater science.
Oh, this was wrong. My ChatGPT was wrong, sorry. But you have been the artistic director of the Steirischen Herbst, this is correct.
Yes, I've manifested us in Europe, but the last part was Steirische Herbst, in interdisciplinary arts festival. Yeah.
This is a good example that, and then I really give over because otherwise I will talk too much. How this changed now, it's up to us to check whether the computer is telling us the truth. Before we were delegating to the computer to give us secure answers. Now we have to check them, okay? We don't, somehow it's up to us again. And since she's coming from this political background, I really ask her from the, let's say, political point of view, but especially from the, let's say, the Vienna point of view, on specific achievements, but maybe also what we did not achieve. So I think we should also maybe have a look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Hannes, and thank you all for being here. I think from the very first moment, it was your stubbornness and also from Michael Stampfer, who I have to thank for his enthusiastic pointing out that this topic of digital humanism is ardent. We need to act now, so it's not something we can wait. In the meantime, I was reading a lot, I was observing a lot, and the latest book I read was by The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman, which I can recommend as a non-technological person, but I think he points out in a very, very dystopic manner what is ahead of us. Really disturbing. At the end, he shows the necessity and points out what we have to do and what diverse agents in diverse fields can do. So it is about finding allies in science, technology, and politics, in business, and on all levels. So what did we do? I listened to you, first of all, and I understood what you are talking about, and thanks for being for translating it to a person not with a technological background. No, but it was clear that we have to support it from the very beginning. So we had a call by my department on digital humanism. We together developed a doctorate college on digital humanism, 300,000 euros per year over 4 years. And this will enable about 20 PhD students to do multi- and transdisciplinary research on digital humanism. And we have these fellowship programs by the IWM, the Institut für die Wissenschaft von Menschen, the Institute of the Science on Human Beings. It's a very philosophical driven institution. Regular calls, research programs by the WWTF. We did a very easy brochure, easy to read brochure for really for kids, for normal people, to make them understand what does it mean, digital humanism. We have some copies here, but I hope we get some more. And of course, we talk to science and researchers on next steps. So I think we did a lot in respect of the normal velocity. Maybe politics is doing the work. So and we support in any way possible. And later on, maybe we point out that we think that Vienna can become, with all his history of avant-garde thinking, of modernity, of very Jewish-driven modernity, so that it becomes again a hotspot for putting human being with all aspects we have in the center. And it is a game and a fight between David and Goliath, but we also want to see and point out what are the good chances, how do we benefit from the digital world, but also to think about containment, about slowing down, maybe on some points, mitigation. So what can we do as a society to get again hold of this very fast developing sector? And just a last sentence to you, Gerti. I think these elections, also the last ones in the US, but now in Germany, they point out the fact that the AfD has more social activity on social media than all other parties together. So it means we need to talk about how do other young generations, where do they get their information? What is triggered? Because they are refusing newspapers, they refuse the government broadcast stations. So we have to really be aware what is done in that field. And if we don't want to become Thüringen and Sachsen, actually where I'm coming from, I was born in Dresden, so this is clearly, I know the agenda there, but I think we really have to reflect and do something to not to be shocked. And so we have to be active and we have to be seductive in our means and creative in our means, but I'm sure there are so many of yours who will shape the future.
Thank you. The good thing in digital humanism is that you start to talk about the digital and you end to talk about the world. No, it's really disconnected. The next one I would like ask George Metakidis. I have a specific order, and I ask George. George is professor in logic. He's Greek, studied in the US, and he was professor in Greek, but also in the US. But most important, he was directing the European research programs in ICT for several years, and he was also one of those really supporting the World Wide Web Consortia. So without George, the World Wide Web Consortia would not exist. And he's with us since the early beginning, and George has an inside and outside view, and I ask you for that.
Thank you, Hannes, and thank you for your insight in addition to your support, because what you said before about how these technologies can cut one way or cut the other way is very crucial, and this is what in a sense digital humanism is all about. I was here at the first summer school, and it so happened that the last day of the first summer school coincided with my birthday. So I was given a book as a present, which I read avidly. It was the book by Carl Sigmund, entitled Exact Thinking in Demented Times. Then, just recently, I came across and read another book, this time by a Greek colleague, Professor Trachanas from the University of Crete, entitled O Kyklos, the circle. The circle he's talking about in the book is the Vienna Circle again. And this remarkable collection of intellectual power that produced during the 20s until the cleansing that followed the Anschluss. And then it didn't stop there, because they moved to other countries from where they exerted seminal influence to all intellectual development of the 20th century. Now, the way the second book deals with the Vienna Circle is hinted by the design of the cover. It's a source of light, a source of bright light, surrounded by encroaching darkness. Now, I understand the risks of hyperbole, and I don't want to say that the dark clouds of today, like the elections yesterday or others, possible results of elections to come shortly are comparable to the late 30s. And yet, this extremely fast technological developments of digital technology spearheaded by artificial intelligence are not taking place in a vacuum. They're taking place in a context of turbulent geopolitics. We have more armed conflict today than in any other time since World War II. And then there's the pandemics, the threats, there's the climate crisis. There is every reason to understand that there is a sort of darkness encroaching, different, but still darkness. And if I were to very shortly describe what digital humanism has accomplished in its first 5 years of existence, is to create a framework, a guide, an approach of how we can proceed, what deliberations we can make, and what actions we can take so as to break through the darkness towards an enlightened society and avoid the risks of a modern-day feudalism. In that sense, I think that what digital humanism has accomplished in its first 5 years was to provide and to continue to provide such a source of light. Thank you.
Thank you, George. This part was not agreed with him. Next one is Christiane Wendehorst. She is a professor for law, and you are also professor for innovation and digitalization in law. You are co-directing a research institute there. And she's also vice president of the Austrian Academy of Science. Not yet, but okay. And she will talk more about the regulation and legal side of this last 5 years, or last, let's say, and it's not only digital humanism. I think it's in general a societal perspective on the legal framework which was developed within this last, let's say, decade.
Thank you so much, Hannes, and thanks first of all for inviting me to this esteemed panel. It's usually the part of a lawyer to talk about law and regulation, and so I already suspected that this would be my part here too. And in fact, for a lawyer, those past 5 years have been incredibly exciting and decisive, I have to say, because as the digital transformation is changing almost every aspect of our daily lives, all the areas of the law had to be adapted. So that is ranging from contract law to liability law and you name it. But it's not just that, and that brings me to the Vienna Manifesto, so which I printed out, and I need to take my glasses because my eyes are getting so poor. So it's already the third bullet, which speaks about effective regulations, rules, and laws based on a broad public discourse must be established. So this is the third bullet on the list, and it goes on with regulators need to intervene with tech monopolies, and also the other bullets here in the manifesto. They heavily refer to regulation and law. And so it was so important not just to adapt the areas of the law which we have, but also to make sure we introduce regulation that makes sure this new technology is in line with human rights, with fundamental values, with democracy and the rule of law. And so I think those past 5 years have been quite successful in doing that, actually. So we've seen, in particular in Europe, but not just in Europe, but in particular here, a full range of pieces of regulation, ranging from the Data Governance Act, Data Act, Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act, targeting for political advertising regulation, and in particular the Artificial Intelligence Act. And I know that the Digital Humanism Initiative sent a letter at the very last moment when it seemed politicians can't agree, and supported this piece of legislation to come through. So, and I think a lot of that legislation is really breathing the spirit of digital humanism. Of course, it would be exaggerated to say that it was the Vienna Manifesto that triggered all those pieces of legislation. I think nobody's really claiming that. And there's a lot of other terminology around, ranging from trustworthy AI, ethical AI, human-centered AI, value-based engineering, and so on. But it's the spirit of digital humanism that is kind of an umbrella over many of those initiatives that has kind of made sure we get to that point. And it was not easy. I mean, at some points we thought, we'd fail on the last few meters of the race. And so I think actually you can be proud, and we all can be proud what's been achieved. And so congratulations. I'm not saying we're there, and in particular, I'm not saying regulation does the full job. So first of all, regulation needs to be enforced. Only if it's enforced, it's good regulation. If it's not enforced, you better wouldn't have it. And it's not perfect. We need to work on it. But I think it's been a success story.
Thank you. Goes also to you, because you were part of this. You were a member of the program committee, of the steering committee, participating in our meetings. Thanks for that. Next one is Jens Schneider. He is the rector, the host, and he's the new rector since 1 year. So I think it's 1 year now?
Almost.
Yeah.
11 months.
Okay. And the question goes to you. What does digital humanism let's say, mean for a technical university, let's say for an academic institution? So what is your, let's say, reflection on this, let's say, initiative and the concept?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So maybe I want to start first with an analogy. This institution was founded in 1815, so it's pretty old for a tech university. It's the second oldest in the world. And why was it founded? At that time, the Emperor Franz I, he saw there's upcoming technologies. There was upcoming technologies from the railways, from industries, for example, making clothes and making the colors of the clothes. All the technologies came up. And he saw somehow, I don't know who in his consultancies, saw that the existing universities couldn't cover it not fully. So there was decided to make a tech university to cover these fields of roads, machines, and all the technologies that are based on engineering. So that was clever and obviously successful. And I think somehow we are again at a point in time where the digital world needs a holistic approach where we can cover all aspects of digitalization. And I'm absolutely convinced that, like you said before, regulations alone will never solve it, never ever, because first of all, those that do the regulation need to understand what are they regulating. So education in the end is the key. Education, from my perspective, is the key, and here I'm proud that the faculty and your faculty was brave enough 5 years ago, obviously, to say, the only focus on tech, how to do the best algorithms, how to do them efficiently, how to make all this very well in that specific area of informatics or information technology, and digitalization is not enough. So you said, let's bring into the ethics. And I think it's true. I think it's important that our students are also confronted with these questions of ethics, and the examples that you brought and with the dark history also show that it is needed that you confront them. But at the same time, I have to say, all these ethics students should be confronted with technology. So it's absolutely important that from school level to university, most people get exposed to technologies to better understand the mechanisms. Because it will also not be enough that we at the tech university bring in the ethics, but the ethics students need to study technology as well. And here is a difficult task of us. I think in Vienna we can do it because we have so many universities, more than 200,000 students. We can bring together all faculties that are, we have the law faculty in University of Vienna, we have our techies, so we have to bring all of these together, and then, only then, I'm sure we can make progress on that. Because all the issues that were talked about with politics and all that, it all comes back to this question, how can we distribute knowledge? And that's the key of universities, to generate and distribute knowledge.
Thank you. Noshir, you are the last, sorry for that. Noshir Contractor, he is coming from the Northwestern University in the US, from Chicago. He's really one of the world leading experts in network analysis. He has a background in communication and social studies. And he's also the executive director currently of this Web Science Trust, following Wendy Hall. And I really thank you for being here with us 3 days only. We had a nice dinner yesterday and a good discussion today. And I would like you to look at, let's say, the scientific aspect. Let's say, what is science and also social science benefiting from such a concept like digital humanism, or let's say more generally from such a multidisciplinary point of view?
Well, thank you again for inviting me to be on this panel, and happy 5th birthday. The symbol for the 5th birthday is the traditional gift is wood, and that is supposed to symbolize resilience and strength and durability. So I hope that the 5 years that we've already had with digital humanism will continue to exhibit that resilience and durability in the years to come. And certainly I think a lot of us who are here today are excited to see the next generation of scholars in the room, the next generation of scientists, some of you maybe. I was very impressed with the introductions this morning of those who attended the Summer Institute, and I think you come to a point where some of what we do as scholars or as leaders in other facets of life and other facets of society, one of the most rewarding things for an educationist is to train the next generation. That's the real amplifier. There's only so much each of us can do, but training the next generation of scholars. So I want to, again, give a special shout out to the Summer Institute participants who are here as part of that. You asked me to talk a little bit about science. So web science, the term web science, came about because Tim Berners-Lee had this idea that after the invention of computers, we had something called computer science. And so after the invention of the web, we perhaps need to consider having something called web science. But in his infinite wisdom, he realized that we didn't want to make the same mistake with web science that in retrospect we perhaps made with computer science. And so he wanted web science not to be a discipline, but an interdiscipline. So by definition, it was seeing to help us understand and interrogate how web shapes society and society shapes the web. So that from the start was one of the reasons why web science had this interdisciplinary approach. It's also one of the reasons why I, as a social scientist, was on the board of trustees of the Web Science Trust, even though my PhD is not in computer science. However, I think this is an important pointer for why we in web science are so intrigued and so excited about being part of the umbrella digital humanism. Because as we have seen already in the comments, digital humanism is an all-encompassing catch-all item that looks from a philosophical standpoint, trying to understand how we can understand, harness, and intervene in technologies for the better of society. That's a very, very modest goal and ambition. And yet, it is very clear that that kind of a goal cannot be accomplished through any one discipline or even any one particular set of competencies. It has to, by definition, be something that is informed, as we have already heard, from disciplines such as law, ethics, computer science. I will add to that psychology, sociology, mathematics. But all of these disciplines have something important to learn from and contribute to the advancement of to achieve the goals of digital humanism. And so I think one of the things that we've seen is that by definition, it has to be interdisciplinary. Some would even argue transdisciplinary. That is not just furthering each discipline or exchanging between two disciplines, but residing above them. That's why it transcends any set of disciplines. And that is an exciting time for us to be there. We talked about the role of Vienna historically in playing an important role in some major intellectual movements that we've seen over the centuries. At the time of many of those prior movements, individuals had the ability to be the single foremost expert who had read everything about a particular topic. Today, that is no longer possible. And therefore, every single area that we are trying to pursue, we have to recognize our competencies, but know enough about others and what they are competent so that we can then build knowledge of it. Some people joke, all the stuff that has to happen in a single discipline, we already know. I'm not buying that, but the point is that a lot more of the unknowns cannot be addressed by a single discipline. And that's why digital humanism is so exciting. The right time and the right place. Happy 5th birthday.
Thank you. This would immediately bring me to the second round, which is about the future. But before going to the second round, is there any comment or, let's say, question from the audience? Can we have a mic for the... He raised his hand. Do we have one? I hope so. So it was not foreseen that we have questions. It's my mistake.
Okay. I can ask afterwards.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It was a joke, sorry.
Thank you for all the inputs, super interesting. I'm totally in this space and it's my passion. The question I have is, so we had, perhaps I heard this once, the car got invented and then I think 15 years later the regulation came in with the seatbelt, and then we had the impact of social media that we only found out, I think 7-8 years later, that it's impacting the mental health of our children. So the question is, with the increasing speed of change and technology, how can we, and I'm not only talking about regulation, so whoever wants to answer it from a psychological perspective or regulation, how can we be quick enough?
This is a question for the second round. I will ask all of you then. Or if there's some specific answer ready by somebody? Yes? All of you are taking the mic. So, Veronica, you are the first one.
Yeah. No, I would say coming quickly together, analog, talking, coming from diverse fields of society, be it research, be it technology, be it politics, all the agents who are currently working at that field. And we try, for instance, the city of Vienna tries to implement in its doing, in its regulation, so we are not using any data for, we don't sell, we don't collect it, we have it just for a very clear use. So trying to be multidisciplinary, multi-connected, trying to find the right agents, and maybe we come later on to the idea of this big getting together next year, so that you find, but in an analog way also, that we meet, talk, being surprised by meeting on an analog way, because I believe that's the strongest force we do have, feeling each other, in being in the same space, same room. Sometimes, of course, people have to be where they are, but I think this is an option, and also working from the political side on translating what is said here to normal people who are not academics, not scholars, taking fear away by pushing education, by trying to get new ideas. So there's a lot of ideas we have to work parallel on, but we have to meet from time to time to exchange. And also on digital diplomacy, I think Vienna can be a hub for that also, because we have the UN city, and so we try to make that happen in Vienna, and I think it's a good place for that.
Jens, you wanted to say?
Yes, first of all, I think you're absolutely right. We are absolutely too slow, and all you were talking about politics is a result of that. That's what I think. I believe education is the key, and this means all of us have to do more about education. I think we have to refocus on the core mission also of universities to educate people. And the question is, how can we do that? Not only the students, but also on a school level, but also for older people that were not in this benefit to have the education that we have. So I think this is one of the key issues. All of us should think how to support Gerti Kappel, for example, in the EduLab, how to contribute to the EduLab. I don't know if you all know it. It's a concept that we have at TU Wien, where even from third grade, I think, there's education for the schools, so that the teachers can come here and with their with all the kids, and they get this education. And I think these concepts, how to disseminate the knowledge, has to speed up. So we have to disseminate the knowledge that we have. It doesn't help that we talk about in our bubble. I think we have to disseminate it much more, and all of us can do it. So please go to Gerti and Peter, and then try what to do, how to continue to the EduLab is one thing.
Before we continue, because I think we lost time, or I lost the sense of time, I would like to go to the second round and ask you to integrate this question, because I think it's really related also to some future aspects, and I really would like that you take up in your answers. And I would like to continue with you, Jens, because you are the first in the second round, and I really would like, from the challenge point of view, and I would make it very short, does TU Wien need a philosophy department?
A short answer, no. I don't think so, because we are in Vienna and we have perfect philosophy departments close by. So, like I said before, we have 200,000 students in Vienna. What we need is a new way of collaborating. And I think we can do it, and we already do so. So with Sebastian Schütze, the rector of Uni Wien, we already have very close links to Wirtschaftsuni, to BOKU, to MedUni. I think there's a very good spirit in doing this together. And I think, like I said before, if your law students get involved in the tech, and our tech students get involved in some law principles, that's already a good start. So we don't need to reinvent everything. We already have it all here. But we have to, like you said before, that interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary thinking needs to be on the page. And there's not a real good KPI on that in the academic system. That's one of the issues we have. You don't get credit for that. You typically get credit for your disciplinary work because you need to be very deep. Like I said before, you need to be very deep to understand what you're doing. Then you can regulate it. You cannot just say superficially, yeah, I've heard about AI and then try to regulate it. I think also you work very deeply into the technology to understand it, and then you can do it. And that's why I think we have to work hard, dig deep, and then work transdisciplinary in Vienna. I think we have it all here.
I would have a follow-up question, but I'm not doing it now. I asked Christiane because you were already now, let's say, approached by Jens. So looking at, let's say, not only about the next 5 years, but looking in this context, and I would not only use it as digital humanism, but also this political, societal context and digitalization and the different disciplines. What do you think is ahead of us?
Yeah, it would be, I would probably earn more money if I could predict the future. You know, predictions are very hard, in particular when they concern the future. If I might, I would first like to answer your question and largely by underlining what others have said. I think what we need is a multi-level approach. So it's not, you know, Lawrence Lessig spoke about these different modes of governance with technology, with organizations, with the economy, and also with law. And I think we need those 4 levels and maybe more levels in order to cope with the pace. And this is why digital humanism is so important, because it is precisely that umbrella that you know, brings all those threads and all those levels together. But that was my short reply to your question. Now, what's ahead of us? I think what we are seeing at the moment, and then I come a little bit back to my own field, is a kind of anti-regulatory spirit. We are seeing major economies in the world deciding against regulation and pro a soft law, more ethics-oriented approach, and it's already clear that also the European Commission in the next period will take a pro-business approach and an anti-regulation, or not anti-regulation, that's too strong, but quite an approach that's skeptical towards more regulation. And that is something we have to watch very closely, I think. There has been, in some aspects, you know, we've done maybe too much. There's been some over-regulation, yes, definitely. But there are also many loopholes, so a lot needs to be done. And I think what we need is, and this is why, again, let me come back to the point that why I believe digital humanism is so important. And it's so important that this initiative now carries on after the first 5 years. It's that we have to keep our pace, maybe redirect our energies from regulating to doing it a little bit smarter, reconsidering things, consolidating things, improving what has proved to be not ideal. I'm a little bit afraid we lose momentum and we lose the energy, and we're getting tired in you know, safeguarding fundamental rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And this is why I would really hope that this pace and this energy that has been visible during the first 5 years will also be carried through the next 5 years, because it's so important we don't stop now.
Thank you. Noshir, how can we keep pace?
So I think that I will also take the cue that Christiane and begin by trying to address the question that you were asking, which is very tied into the second round in any case. I think that you mentioned, Jens, you mentioned that education plays a very pivotal role in this, and I think it is something that is very helpful to know a little bit about other areas. We are very deep at the universities. We are given rewards. We are incentivized to be specialized in certain areas, through the tenure promotion, all of that. But a form of helping bridge that gap is sometimes called the T form of education, which is you have depth in one area, but you have a certain amount of knowledge and maybe a couple of other smaller combs that go into some other areas. So you're able to at least have collaborative fluency, which is important to know a little bit about other areas to learn about it, etc. But I will say that the other part of education, so that's one aspect of education that you mentioned, which I agree with. Another part of education is to look back at what we have learned from the history of prior technologies. One of the depressing facts is that going back to the printing press and the telephone, we seem to be making the same mistakes that we made about understanding the impacts of technology. There's a famous futurist who's passed away now, whose name is Roy Amara, and he said this line, he said, "We overestimate the effects of technology in the short term and underestimate the effects of technology in the long term." So today we have a lot of hype about ChatGPT and Gen AI, but the ways in which we are thinking about it is in the short term. We're not thinking about how these technologies are going to impact in the long term. And those are the kinds of historical lessons which we also need to educate our individuals today to learn about. And I think that those are important areas. I think that in terms of the more general issue of the future in this area, I think it's going to change both the content and the conduct of science. By the content, clearly we're going to be able to focus on issues that are going to be very different from what we've talked about in the past. Hans mentioned that I study networks. We normally thought of social networks as networks where the nodes were individuals or aggregates of individuals. Today, those networks are very much involving Gen AI and other entities that are not just likely to be our assistants as Google and Siri and Alexa were. They could be our teammates. They could even be our managers, where today more and more of these entities are actually in a position where they are saying, you do that, and then you do this, and then after the two of you have done it, send your product to so-and-so. They are managing us. And these are ways in which we've learned about humans in the loop. But today, we're talking not so much about putting humans in the loop, but taking advantage of how we can put an AI in the group of humans. And see the different ways in which we have to think in the network of humans. And so, we spend a lot of time talking about how humans are going to be replaced by AI. I think instead what we should be thinking about is how humans with AI will replace just humans without AI. And that those are the ways in which we need to think through what are going to be these future areas. No single discipline obviously is going to do it. But while in my first answer, I focused more on the interdisciplinary nature, I think the second part that I think is also going to be very important as we move forward to shorten the time that you were asking us about, but also more generally, taking advantage of this, is to have better ways of building networks between scholars, practitioners, policymakers, industry. That's the gap that still continues to exist. And in some ways, you see vestiges of that even in some of the members of this newly formed alliance that we are talking about, where I would say that the Web Science Trust has focused more on more basic science research, while digital enlightenment, digital humanism, etc., have focused on aspects related to education or policy as the mainstay. We have an opportunity here to bring alliances and networks together, in this case, but others, where that connect cannot be as accidental and as delayed and as latent as it has been.
Thank you. George, the floor is yours.
It's easy. I prepared some bullets about actions, concrete actions to be taken by digital humanism. Yeah, my apologies to my fellow panel members who may get a stiff neck for looking at that, but just take a quick look at just the words. As a matter of fact, this could be a summing up of the discussion that preceded them. The first one is that digital humanism should continue and build upon the interdisciplinary discourse, lectures, panels, different focus, adjustments, but continue and build upon with the interdisciplinarity in the broad sense, not just between academic disciplines, but also between policymakers, researchers, industry representatives, so that all points of view are taken into account. Research directions. At the moment, there's a grave danger that the only ones capable to fashion, to determine future research directions are the big companies. It is estimated that only 12% of state-of-the-art artificial intelligence research today is carried out in universities. All the rest is exclusively in the hands of those with financial power to pay for the huge computing costs, the data curation, and all that it takes. It's over $1 billion to train a large language model. No university can do that. But if we want to get back some of that power, we should be able to determine what those research directions should be. And at the same time, be ready, and I respond a bit to the question that was asked. This new research directions should come hand in hand with the regulation needed if the results of the research are to be deployed. There is no other way but to have the actual researchers, computer scientists, and not only, to try and understand the consequences, the impact of what they're putting forward. And then they themselves also propose novel ways of regulation that could go as a package and not wait, as we did, for example, in the case of social networks, where you mentioned all the, let's say, the negative effects. Social networks were designed and developed in the absence of any regulation whatsoever. And we're paying for that now. Now there's no reason to continue in that fashion. Contributions to policies for regulation and public investment. I stress the latter. And of course, much of it can be done at the national level, but a lot of it should be done at the European level. There's no way you can take the exclusive privilege of determining future research directions from the hands of very few, very large companies without public investment. If these technologies are indeed as transformational as they are claimed to be, then they merit public investment for the public good. As the rector mentioned, contributions to education, and I would add at the earliest possible level, not just at university level, but already there's a Digital Humanism initiative to introduce digital humanism ideas and training at high school level. And this should be further developed and built upon. Joint actions with like-minded organizations worldwide. Some of them within this alliance that was described earlier, but beyond as well, depending on the goal to be achieved. And finally, the design of some concrete projects, in particular in the Global South. And just to be more specific, there's already, some first steps have been taken to establish a digital humanism hub in Africa. And not just a hub for let's say, holding workshops and exchanging information, but setting up an AI center, which means local data curated in the local language, computing power provided, public investment needed, maybe by the World Bank in this case, and training and maintaining human resources to make possible for those AI tools to benefit the local communities. These are some of the things that I think should be future actions of digital humanism, and I'm extremely happy that almost all of them came up in the preceding discussion.
Veronica, the last word is yours from the city of Vienna and from you for the future steps and planned things.
It's a big burden talking after you because I totally agree with you. So we are already, I think, in the same spirit. What can a city do? And a city councillor for arts and science can fight for the money needed to do these things. To host this international conference and to shape it with you together so that different audiences also coming. It's not only a highbrow technological thing, but maybe also people working in the city of Vienna, shaping really the daily life should be also included, or diverse parts, and then inviting other cities and inspiring them to join this platform of digital humanism and trying to find alliances on the European level. This, wherever I go, I talk about this initiative. I spread the word. I try to invite them to get in contact. So this is what we can do about finding the right money. And we, as public funder, we don't have foundations in Austria. You might not know that, but we are really, everything here is funded by either the city or the government. So, or there are very few ones, but not comparable to other countries. So it is the private money, the public money, and we need therefore also to explain to the voters, to the people living in the city, what we are doing. And we have to find a language which is warm enough, easy enough to include the people living here, and this is what we do on so many levels. And education is absolutely the key word, but education for everyone. And that's also, let's say, a heritage of the Red Vienna, trying to implement it on so many levels, be it housing, be it social housing, or be it public events with the free access. So that's what we also try to do. So that's my small part. And I think we should get together with the partners also in business. And it's not about only mitigation and litigation and banning things. It is, I think, finding also partners in private companies saying in which society you want to live in, or you want your children to live in. And maybe we should have some rules where we stop. It's like with the atom energy and the research, where there was a common agreement that we don't go further this path, we don't go deeper inside, even if we could.
So I ask you for an applause for the entire panel. I thank you a lot, and I hand over to Peter, and we can go to the...
Yes, there is not much to do for me anymore. Thanks to everyone on the panel, and basically that's it. I just have to announce, well, there's 3 points, bullet points I still have. Enjoy the buffet is open, so if you need some refreshments, some snacks, they're outside across the, whatever, like the staircase. The second is get your post on the way out. So we have these really nice, I think, personally for me, that's a new highlight, posters about digital humanism in German. So for the international guests, as a reminder where you got them. And the third point is thank you for joining. That's it. Have a nice evening.